Dear friends,
No one's on yet, so I'm just waiting a minute. Um, I'm just gonna wait a little bit longer to see if we can get anyone else on here. Perfect. Okay. Hello there. I'm Avery. I've done a couple streams before, a couple shorts, um, but today we're going to be talking about the future of medtech monitoring. It's a very big subject. It's it's very important for diagnosing different conditions and being able to keep track of the health of individuals. So it's just going to be a topic that we'll delve into, look at what we've been doing, what's the current status, and where things are going to go. Perfect. Let me start the presentation then.
so please do type your questions and they'll for discussion. So please keep typing your questions if you have, or uh, anything you have to put comments where you're joining from. This is a huge topic. Avery is going to start some of the basics today, and he hopes that with your questions and your interest, he might be able to continue this as a series. His focus is engineering background, but he wants to make it in a very easy way. So all the students, even professionals who are joining from different parts of the world, get a kind of idea, a gross idea about this whole topic. So, Avery, wonderful to have you here. You may please go with the slides and let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I'll continue onward then. We'll be talking about the future of medtech monitoring technologies. My name is Avery. I'm an engineering student at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and I'm here today working for Charan Kamal Health Group, and to give you this presentation, educate you a little bit more on medical technologies when it comes to monitoring. So we're going to cover a couple different topics today. We're going to go into what is medical monitoring, introduce the idea in general to all of you. Then we're going to cover where these technologies, where they are used. Then we're going to look at what are the gaps, because when it comes to technologies, it's important to look at what is being missed out on and what can be improved. So we're going to cover those. And then we're going to look at what is next, solving, fixing those gaps, bridging those gaps, fixing the problems, but then also just building for more in the future than we currently have to help face more problems in general. So, what is medtech monitoring? Medical monitoring is the continuous or periodic tracking of physiological and or biometric data. And doing so enables early detection of abnormalities, guides diagnostics, helps with treatment, and helps also a lot when it comes to prevention and being able to keep people at their healthiest. Medical monitoring is the foundation of modern healthcare decision making, whether it's tracking a post-op patient's vitals in the ICU or helping a person with diabetes manage their condition at home. These technologies turn real-time data into life-saving actions. And that is why it is something that's so important to be educated on, because of how much it can affect and save your lives and the lives of those you care about, as well as even strangers and people. It can help so many people, which is why it's important. So, some more examples of medical monitoring devices is we're going to look at there's a couple different things that it can track, specifically the vital signs to start out with. I think the most common would be heart rate. I mean, that's something you can test yourself by feeling different veins in your neck or on your wrist, or in this case, you can do directly with the heart using a stethoscope. So that's a very common one that people use. Blood pressure is another common one that people experience often going to annual appointments or just simple check-ins. Just strapping the inflatable device on your arm to test the pushback, the pressure of the blood, which is important to tell both of these the heart health and how you are doing when it comes to being able to circulate important nutrients and other things throughout your body as well. And then also with blood related tracking, oxygen saturation is a big one, glucose levels as well, to make sure you're able to be fueled and energized to live your life. And there's so many more examples, but in the common way that these can all be tested is through smart devices, as you can see, like a smartwatch. Uh, and all of these, though, are considered vital signs. They're base continuous things that can be tracked over time to help give an overview of how your health is probably doing. Now, stepping in a little bit more technical, we're going to be looking at a couple of the actual monitoring devices themselves. I'm going to start out with the EEG and ECG, or the electroencephalogram. Sorry, but the EEG monitors brain activity, and this is used in diagnosis and tracking of epilepsy, sleep disorders, brain injuries, and overall it helps us study and better understand our own minds, which is a huge field that is always evolving, advancing. There's always more to learn. And then ECG, electrocardiogram, tracks the electrical signals of the heart, detecting your rhythm, to look for arrhythmias, heart disease, and other things where your heart isn't beating the way it should. Uh, Going back again to wearables, we're going to be covering that a lot and referencing a lot because it is something that is so important to be able to bring tracking of your own health into your hands, making it so that you can better understand your physiological needs and current state. And it can, because they have a lot of different sensors that they can put into smart wearable devices that cover general health insights, like the heart rate, activity, blood oxygen, and even fall detection when it comes to gyroscopic technologies, as mentioned in a short before on this channel. But overall, wearables really can help a lot when it comes to being able to bring your health more into your hands. And then there's also a lot of technology when it comes to gaining sleep data, being able to track your breathing movements, be able to track your brain activity. Here you see a sleep apnea mask, being able to help you breathe better when you sleep, improve that sleep quality as well, which is super important for maintaining your health as well, which is always important. But then there's also technologies for detecting tremors as well. Quantifying tremor severity, frequency, guiding treatment, tracking regression. This is important for Parkinson's disease and other things. That tremors or minor seizures can be a very important thing to detect as soon as possible to be able to treat, help prevent in the future, track, and overall help you be healthier. And there's a lot of different technologies for that. Uh, Including gyroscopic technologies and being able to notice when things are rapidly shaking and rotating. But there are always advances when it comes to that type of thing because it is such a widely approachable subject of detecting tremors in the movement abnormalities overall. Um, but where are they used? Um, these, I mean, monitoring technologies can be used anywhere, but they are primarily used in hospitals, monitoring vitals, medications, and device usages across departments to help make sure that hospitals stay active and flowing. ICUs, um, intensive care units, where high acuity monitoring for early detection and rapid intervention is super important, getting there as quick as possible to detect things as quick as possible and really help out people as quick as possible. But also usage in operating rooms, tracking anesthetic levels, ventilator settings, and ensuring that surgeries continue along as safe and as sound as possible. And then also with emergency departments, continuously uh, assessing the care of different individuals to monitor and guide urgent care decisions so that you can best help in those types of emergency situations. But also available, as mentioned before, in home healthcare settings, where you can remotely track and to support chronic care, hospice care, prevent remissions of all sorts, and better help understand ourselves and people who may not be able to get their way to a hospital or an intensive care unit, or just need a more sustainable long-term method of tracking and monitoring and better understanding their own health. But they're also obviously very used in clinical trials, ensuring safety and efficacy through that real-time data collection, but also through just being able to collect the information necessary for lots of research in better understanding the human body in general for all people. And then also in use in rehabilitation centers there, that guiding recovery, by monitoring therapy responses, equipment usages, and general healthcare vital signs for during exercises to better understand how people are changing over time, how they're responding to things. And as you can see, the pattern here is it's about getting more information to better understand you and yourself and your health, uh, and to make it so that it's more possible to achieve a healthier you.
We have a question here, Avery. So some viewer has asked, can we buy these devices from the market, or we have to get them from the doctors in the hospital? I think it's a very valid question because a lot of viewers who would have joined a little bit later, Avery will tell that how what made him interested in this topic, what is his background, but uh, while he's telling about his experience and why he's interested in medtech, this is a very very important topic. Why and how the patients can get these devices from? Where do they get these devices? Can they just order on Amazon like an Apple Watch, or So have you just give them a background of what made you come to this industry, and in your present role as an engineer, what do you think about this question?
Yeah, I mean, you've said a lot there on that. So yeah, answering the question, can we buy these devices from the market, or do we have to get them from doctors in in the hospital? Thank you, Travel Global, for asking that. And as mentioned, it depends on the device. Like mentioned, Apple Watches you can get at an Apple store online, order them, and those are things that can help with the heart rate monitoring and exercise tracking, those sorts of healthcare medtech devices. Um, Whereas the like other things like in EEG, electrocardiogram, ECG, those types of machines would require contacting medtech groups directly. I mean, they're more expensive. You have to really communicate on what you're looking forward to using them for sometimes. And then other devices, big scanning machines, like X-ray machines, those of course require a lot of work to get it proper setups to make sure they're able to be used correctly. And so it's for the more complex ones, it requires talking to medtech companies directly. Usually, you don't go through a hospital unless they're trying to sell equipment that they're already done using, or they are retiring, but is still usable by other groups or organizations. But it really does depend entirely on what you're looking to get. Mhm. And then it looks like Exploring Latitudes has another question. Wonderful topic, but such devices are very expensive. Do you think it will change in the future? Absolutely. I mean, yes, all of these devices, a lot of these devices are very expensive. But I mean, even on a short term scale, you can see how devices are getting cheaper. When you look at old Apple Watches are cheaper, maybe because they're old, but then also because the technologies have gone better over time to produce different things. You can get more complex devices for the same to less price. And then also when it comes to larger machines, like MRI machines, which require vast amounts of resources to build. One of the main ones for those is you require superconductors, which have to be super cooled to very low temperatures, like hundreds of degrees Fahrenheit. And to be able to be able to properly use them. And so as technologies evolve in other sectors of being able to better control temperatures and better freeze things, and then also even if there's discovery of superconductors that are able to handle higher temperatures, would allow for those devices to be cheaper, easier to be made. And so, yeah, absolutely. They are super expensive, but they will get cheaper. They will get more affordable, less expensive. And as they even improve in quality.
Thank you so
So,
much.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
you can continue with the slide. There are a few more questions. We'll come back in 15 minutes. But for those questions, meanwhile, one question people wanted to know what is your background and how you got attracted into this industry and how
Yeah.
your talk can help other students. There are many students from Philippines, Dubai, India, China, Japan, who are very interested in technology and they would want to hear from you. What made you come in the medtech industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I briefly said, I'm studying computer engineering at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. And so I do come from a heavy technical background that really has to cover a lot of different subjects from, the software side to the hardware of circuits and electronics themselves. And so coming from that broad approach to technologies, it kind of gives me a little bit of a perspective and a curiosity to look into things even beyond that, going into the medtech sphere of creating technologies to help other people. Um, and kind of with that, I also have family members that have been helped a lot by the medtech sphere. Um, I have a family member who's deaf, who uses cochlear implants, and being able to see and even meet the people who made those is such an incredible experience, because it does improve the lives of people and being able to give them an entirely new access to perceive the world on. And so I think it's amazing that all that I've observed when it comes to medical technologies, and that's what drew me in a lot, is being able to see if maybe I can help other people that way. Maybe I can open other people's world, make their lives better. Um, and so those have been my motivations to explore the medtech sphere. It looks like we have a couple more
Yeah, we can
questions.
come back to them later.
We,
You can
we
continue
yeah,
with this slide. Yeah.
we'll cover maybe a couple more slides, and then we'll get back to them. So going onto the gaps when it comes to medical devices, I think there's like I said, there's a lot of room for improvement. We've also come very far. It's important to recognize that. But some of those gaps include patient compliance, an over reliance on self-reporting leads to data inaccuracies because it relies on people without as much of medical background or less of an expertise when it comes to different subjects. Um, and then also with data overload, getting too much data or data that's maybe not even relevant, and maybe even having it be a lot of data that you have to switch over to different systems, manually charting it. And it adds a lot of the burden to clinicians, and it can delay being able to actually use that data to gain insights or gain solutions to different health issues or problems that may arise. And then also limited between visibility. I think that's a huge gap. It's going to be a while before we can really start bridging that, is being able to uh, give people the opportunity and chance, if they choose, to be able to track their own health through more devices outside of doctor's visits, so that when they get back to the doctor, they already have the data. And so it's more about, we know what's going on. How can we now handle that? And I think that's definitely a huge thing that can be continuously be helped to bridge and move forward with. And then also interoperability issues. Um, I think there's a big thing of there being sometimes not updated technologies in the medical sphere, and where systems and devices may not be able to communicate smoothly. There may be a lot of different operating systems in use, and so again, between transferring data between the actual collection of it and the processing, and then the processing and communicating it to the doctor or the healthcare worker. And that can slow things down a lot when technology gets in the way, and you have to then reach out to people who know the technology, get going IT. And so there's a lot of problems that can arise, and that do arise. And so I think that's definitely a huge thing that can be improved going forward, is building on the intercommunication between devices and technologies to better help it get more into the hands of the healthcare professionals to be able to have things work faster. And then also accuracy and reliability. I think we do have really good accuracy and reliability on so many technologies, but there's still so much room that it can be even better. Get higher resolution scanning, more accurate when it comes to detecting different signals, and being able to ignore interference or noise or other things that get in the way of scans and make them more incorrect. So I think there's a lot of different things that there can be improvements in the sensors, then also in the data processing to better ignore things that are known to be not accurate. And then also the lack of customization. I think this is probably the thing that can have the most improvement, is being able to customize health monitoring and healthcare more to each person by having better data processing and being able to use the information about them, but then also being able to get more information about them that they can use to better understand their current situation, instead of having to rely as much on just pure trends and kind of being able to take data from previous visits and kind of see where that's going, which we have been able to do so much with in the medical sphere. But I think there's still a lot of room for improvement and a gap in being able to make it even more customizable. But then also regulatory pressures. When it comes to medical technologies, there's a lot of regulations, FDA compliances that have to be made. And oftentimes there can be big delays when it comes to it. And that's very good oftentimes in making sure that the only devices that can make it to market are ones that are healthy and good for you and won't harm you in the process of their usage. But oftentimes it does mean things can be slowed down a lot, where important technologies may be able to not get out there as fast. But one of the good things, though, is that in the past, the regulations and things have been able to speed up considerably when it comes to big emergencies. As during the recent COVID pandemic, there's a mass amount of research put into vaccines, and they were able to quickly do a lot of research into the safety and better understanding them, and being able to follow regulations, and also guarantee a high degree of safety, and being able to help and save millions of lives during the worst part of the pandemic was a phenomenal thing. That definitely leaves a lot of room for improvement, as well as we continue onwards, is increasing the speed of being able to test and understand and research different devices and technologies before bringing them to market. Looks like we have a few more questions I'm going to go through. Thank you, Rajiv Nagpal. Do you think doctors and nurses can play some role in finding future technologies themselves? Absolutely. Anyone can be a scientist. I think that's something that has been, a huge thing to say in the past couple decades, and it is absolutely true. If you have an idea, if you have a problem, being able to maybe work on that yourself or research on your own how to solve that, how to build a solution for it. But even if you just have a problem and you don't know fully what the solution could be, being able to have expertise on that problem and being able to bring that to a technical expert who can find that solution using your expertise and working together is a huge important thing. I mean, medical technology companies oftentimes are founded by a medical professional and then also a technical professional or engineer, and they work together. I mean, because you really do need both sides of the coin when it comes to medical technologies. You need someone who definitely understands the medicine, and so absolutely, doctors and nurses do and are necessary in building new future technologies as well. Uh, and another question: how do these technologies empower patients, in particular those from undeserving communities? Well, I think this kind of goes back to a couple questions ago of how can we make these technologies less expensive? How can we make them more affordable and make them more accurate? And so being able to make these technologies more accessible to more people comes down to making them more affordable, making them more efficient to use, so that they can be used to track and help more people. And so being able to widen their reach, I think, is what it comes down to. And so I think there's definitely a lot of ways that this can happen. As I said, there's a research into new materials that can be more efficient, more effective. I think is where that can be the biggest gap or uh, the highest ceiling. I think is as said with MRI machines. If we found superconductors at higher temperatures, they would be even more affordable because you wouldn't have to worry about making the machine and the materials drop down to such a low temperature to be able to get those scans and best monitor different parts of the body. And then another question: how can we make technologies such as this more affordable? Yeah, absolutely, with materials. I think that is where the biggest growth can be, is making materials more affordable. And so doing more research into the different materials that are required to make these machines and making the materials more accessible will make the machines more accessible. And then also, obviously, as we continue to better understand different machines and different technologies, but then also better understand our bodies to know what we have to look for, I think technology will just continue to evolve and grow. But I do think materials are the future when it comes to technology, as they can really help in every aspect. And then another question, great topic. In electronic students uh, also, oops, also, can electronic students also be a part of startups, and which diplomas may be needed? I mean, I am a computer engineering student, so I do come from that electrical background and that computers background, but I'm able to help when it comes to medtech for a couple different things. Being able to understand signal processing has actually been a huge recent help. So being able to understand how, when you get that data, how to process that, which is slightly different, coming from more of a software side. But then also, yeah, with the electronic students, brain scanning and neuron signals are electronic signals. And so, I mean, there's still, a gap. You have to understand how those signals are kind of traveled a little bit, but also you'll have a better understanding of it coming from that electrical side or electronic side, because it really is just a network of electronics going through our body, and our brain is sending a lot of those electronic signals. And so even though it is very complex, more complex than any computer in the world, I think it's still something that is necessary to help bridge that gap of being able to detect those signals and work with them and then monitor them, as before with the EEG monitoring brain activity. That's monitoring the electrical signals. So absolutely, electronic students can be a part of the medtech sphere.
So one of the electronic students had this uh, question. They were not sure which parts in the technology. So, like you're talking about the monitoring today, and that involves AI, that involves electronic engineering, that involves computer engineering. So there's so many streams of engineering, and particularly the lot of electronic students who are not doing degree courses, they are into vocational courses right now, or they are doing like jobs which are just skill based and they don't have a degree. So that's what I think the some of the people who into vocational courses or not able to go to colleges for 4 years of degree, but they're very interested in technology. I know there are so many students in India who are into mobile technology. They're working on the mobile phones. So I think this question might bring from your side. How do those people who are not able to go to formal colleges or afford such expensive education, where and how they can get in touch with medical device technology? Your company or you as a student or as a person who understands, can you guide them a little bit how they can make a career out of this?
Yeah, so diplomas are expensive. Even with scholarships and other things, which are already hard to get. College and diplomas are absolutely expensive, and so while you can get, biomedical engineering, and then biomedicine or biology degrees, or pre-medicine, and then going into medical school. There's a lot of different degrees that can help, but then going beyond that, I think there's a lot of certifications that can also be gained. I think it's hard going into the medical sphere, just the pure medical sphere, without doing higher education. But going into the medtech sphere absolutely can be possible, coming from a background without higher education, or without formal higher education, or college or diploma. I think some more affordable options can absolutely be getting certifications when it comes to uh, programming or AI and being able to process data. And so there's already a lot of sensors out there that get a lot of data, but being able to process data in new and unique and possibly more efficient ways can be a big way to help in the medtech sphere, coming purely from the software side of things. Um, and then also, I think there's different trade schools offer a lot of different possible things where you can learn about being a technician for various machines and be trained in various machines, to better, and you can and that goes into the med tech sphere of being trained to use different equipments and medical technologies, for diagnostics and beyond, and those things. So I think trade schools is a great opportunity, that does lean into getting a diploma. When it comes to that, it's a very formal certification. Um, and so I think those are probably the main ways of going from a software side of things, going to a trade school, the diploma. Um, yeah, I think those are probably the
Yeah, thank you
best
so much.
methods.
And I think we have like two or three more questions, but we will let you go with the slides first and come back in 10 minutes to those questions. But one of the reasons these kind of talks are arranged and Every has happily volunteered it because in his upcoming series, he plans to do these on a weekly basis. Maybe in one of the next series, you can tell about those courses which are not like fully like 4 year courses, but they are like in America or any part of the world you are aware where there may be 4 to 6 week courses where people can come together in the device technology forum. There are a lot of pitches happening. There are a lot of students who get together. So I'm sure you'll be able to create some knowledge and share it with your very interested audience, which is great. You have been able to. I can see the type of questions which are coming are very wide varying. They're students, they're people, they're medical professionals, and that's the success of this kind of a collaborative YouTube channel where you have a chance to connect with people who are just wanting to share and learn. So, yeah, please go ahead with your slides.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to, continuing these conversations, sharing even more resources. And obviously, you guys can reach out to us as well. At the end of this, I'll be sharing, the email, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all those things. You can reach out back to us, and contact us, and we can share more resources. But also, with live streams, definitely look forward to continuing these conversations. I do see a few more questions. I'm going to try and get another slide down. I think they may approach some of the questions that I see at the moment. Um, we'll just take a little look. But yeah, so now we have to address these gaps. I think one of the key solutions is starting out wearable technologies, getting, as mentioned before, it's the continuous real-time health data insights and being able to know your current state anywhere. I mean, that's seen in smart devices, but I think we can do so much more when it comes to smart device usage. I think the main one is that people are primarily just doing um, heart rate is the main one. But I think there's also you can do blood oxygen saturation, um, and even more things, possibly even on the go uh, neuron uh, detection and things like that to be able to test signals and signal strength, even heart strength at the moment, heart electrical signal strength. So I think there's a lot of different ways to help hopefully shrink down technologies and make them more mobile, and that can even help with their accessibility more and being able, if they're smaller, more easy to transport, they can be brought to more people, and possibly have even traveling groups of people who help with diagnostics, which is important. But then also, AI machine learning, being able to work with that data in a higher level. I think that was actually a question mentioned. Is yeah, what do you think about the potential of AI to help with data overload? Um, I think AI is right now it is such a big field. And even though I think there's a recent study I read by Apple covering that, showing through their research and methods that AI seems to be focused a lot on what its parameters are limited by, or what you really put in there. And so it's really hard for AI to step out beyond the bounds of what you give it. But I think that's perfectly okay when it comes to these diagnostics, in that we already have a lot of data, and we're going to get so much more data. And so being able and there's so much already that we can train them on. And so I think the limits of it are pretty much not important when it comes to medical technologies at the moment, since we already have what we need. And so I think they'll help a lot. I think that um, I do think that there's a lot of potential for artificial intelligence to help with data overload. I think it'll help with speeding up so many different previously manual tasks of being able to sift through things, look for patterns. Since that's really what AI is best used for. It's a tool that is best used for pattern recognition and pulling out patterns, being able to extrapolate a little bit from those patterns. Obviously, still a lot up for debate in the AI sphere, and on how much it can extrapolate. But being able to process and understand those patterns is something very much in the wheelhouse of artificial intelligence. And then also, let's look at ongoing gap analysis. Um, the like identifying and resolving the regulatory and performance shortfalls. Uh, I think being able to have a lot of self-reflection is a huge thing in every single technology sphere. Being able to look at your own industry, look at your own company, look at your own issues, and kind of reflect on what you currently have, what you need, what can even be better with what you currently have. Even looking into the past of like how far have we come, um, and maybe what things from the past can inspire us to evolve more into the future. So being able to continue to analyze what's currently going on will be a huge thing in helping bridge the gap. As better understanding yourself, better helps you improve yourself, and better helping understand the problems, better helps you find a solution. So that's definitely a huge thing. And then interoperable systems. As mentioned before, building those seamless communications between different types of systems. I think that's a huge thing when it comes to, as mentioned before, going into the electronics industry and the computer industry. That's a huge thing that can be done purely from a technical perspective of being able to bridge the gap between different types of systems. And there's constantly new things being evolved with that, new ways to use even like emulators of systems, and then bringing it over to help transition smoother. I think there's a lot of different technologies that can be evolved when it comes to that. But I mean, definitely, that's for all of you technical people out there. That is a huge thing that can come from a purely technical perspective. And then customizable monitoring. This goes back to the wearable technologies and also the AI machine learning. Being able to train a model on your own data, like constantly being gathered, and then being able to get real time solutions would be, I mean, that'd be the dream. As that'd be something that could help so many people. Being able to detect things as soon as they happen and then offer a solution almost immediately would be something that'd be pretty phenomenal. And so that's definitely a huge thing to bridge the gap of personalization and a lack of it in lots of the medical sphere as well. It does look like we have a couple more questions to look at.
So, so uh, as we can see, the questions are trying to bring to those points in the medical device, which is, as you see, is very confusing for the common public or for the students. As Apple Watch is one of the examples, I think most of the friends I know have an Apple Watch, and they, when they go for walk, they're always looking at their phone. When they're sleeping, they're looking at their phone. They're so hooked to this monitoring that somewhere down the line, people are trusting more on these devices
Mhm.
than on their inner kind of inner sense of well-being. So, do you think with this present technology, do you think all this technology is actually really needed, or are we just getting into this hookup of this innovation technology, and not actually looking after our own health? I know some people love the technology; they just spend the time alone with the technology, and so, yeah, this is just kind of an overview question which people are interested. Some students wanted to know about it. What is your take on that before you go on the further slides?
Yeah, absolutely. The I think that, I mean, it's important to take all aspects and all perspectives when it comes to medicine, as it is something that is so variable, and there's so many variables and so few constants, and continuancies, that it is important to take as any and all perspectives as you can. I mean, humans have evolved to be, we're very complex creatures, and with a lot of different complex systems. And so, having the intuition to be like, if something does feel wrong and maybe a sensor's not picking it up, it's important to still communicate that. And so we shouldn't have an over reliance on technology. I think that's a huge thing that comes up in my ethics courses when it comes to computer engineering, is making sure not to have an over reliance on technology and knowing when to look beyond technology. And so, absolutely, I think that uh, while technology is super important, and advancements in it are, I think, absolutely necessary to best understand ourselves and best understand humans and medicine and health. I do think I can't stress enough that it is also important to take all perspectives, and even the non-literal, non-scientific approaches of maybe just feelings and, just like emotions of like, something doesn't seem right, or maybe like, like something seems different. And so I think it's important to take a multifaceted approach, when it comes to medicine and diagnostics, and monitoring in general.
Thank you.
Um,
So we have four more questions from Vignesh Nagpal, Hilary Diane Angelis, Anjali Nagpal, and the Saffron Basket. So
mhm.
Vignesh has asked, what do you think the optimal balance between regulation and free innovation is?
I think there's no like hard line that can be drawn. I think if there was, we'd hopefully would have found it by now, but I don't think there is a hard line. I think it does, depend on different situations. As I said earlier, when the pandemic was happening, and literally tens of thousands of people were dying every day in many countries. Um, I think it was super important to speed up the development for vaccines and adjust the regulations to make it best possible to get those things out as quick as possible. And they really did make a huge difference. Being able to speed it up meant that so many people got the vaccinations, maybe even years quicker than they would have, a decade ago. And so I think it depends on the situation. When there's big emergencies, I think that we should lean towards um, loosening regulations a little bit, or possibly finding ways to speed them up. I do think that regulations are absolutely important, um, and that if innovation is left too free, it can hurt people, um, especially when it comes to medicine. When those technologies are directly interacting with your body, if they're not tested, not tested enough, and a lot of things are left to just like guessing, or just intuition, or just left to it seems like it'll be okay. People can get hurt, absolutely, and so I think that in most situations, leaning towards regulation, a lot of regulation and thorough regulation, maybe not over regulation, but just being able to make sure that things are thoroughly tested in a large amount of scenarios to make the devices or technologies make sure they're safe for as many people as possible. I mean, since humans are very variable, there's always going to be some people who may have adverse reactions, or allergies to different parts of machines. And so I think it's important to test it for as much as possible in a reasonable amount of time. I'm using soft terms on purpose of just like it really does depend on the technology. Um, but then also being able to just communicate at the end of the day what is going on in different technologies, so that people can best know for themselves, like, oh, maybe this metal causes an allergic reaction for me, or some this material, or maybe this just isn't for me. Being able to communicate what technologies are and better educate people on what their own situation and own health and their own monitoring and treatment is. I think that's the best thing we can do to help both with being clear with regulation and safe, but then also allowing for innovation, is just communicating what things are more. And then we have another question from Hillary. Great talk so far, Avery. Thank you so much, Hillary. And oh yeah, what do you think about the potential of AI to help with data overload? I think I mentioned that a little bit earlier and answered that a little bit. And I'll just reiterate again. I think there's a lot of opportunities that are possible, since they are primarily data and pattern recognition softwares. I think there's a lot of room for them to be applied uh, to health and to medicine and medtech, since there are so many technologies, as you all can see, when it comes to getting data from the human body. Let's see, another question. Uh, in terms of design thinking, what are the key enablers in your mind from the material science aspect? Um, the key enablers in design thinking, I think being able to have um, a strong background in STEM is super important when it comes to material science and engineering, since it is such a widely applicable thing, but also very complex, because you're dealing oftentimes at the atomic scale to best understand different materials, being able to blend different, or make new compounds, um, or even make organic compounds, or things that are instead of being a standard material made up from living organisms. And so I think being able to go start out with a strong chemical background, chemistry background, I think is the best place to go, since that is understanding things on the atomic scale, and how things interact with each other. And so I think uh, having design thinking and things is starting out with knowing what's possible, um, is with starting with chemistry background. Maybe if you have the patience and the time, a little quantum physics doesn't hurt. Um, but also just knowing what's already out there, using the internet, being like, is this type of thing out there? That's also useful. And then at the end of the day, when it comes to STEM and innovation in general, having just an open mind of being like, maybe something doesn't seem possible, but at the moment, but maybe you could work your way towards finding a different type of pathway to get towards a solution. So having a a wonder and creativity and an open dream like mind can help with starting to find solutions when it comes to innovative problems. Mhm. And the saffron basket. Thanks so much. Can we join your group of MedTech and be a part of your community? Absolutely. Um, at the end of this presentation, I will be sharing the different ways you can reach out to us. Actually, I could show that right now a little bit. Here are some of the ways you all can keep up with us. Um, there's our website, our LinkedIn, our Instagram, and obviously you can reach out to our email for this YouTube channel, and things. And I think the best way to join our group would be to actually reach out through our email or DM us on LinkedIn, or on Instagram or Facebook. Those are probably the best ways to reach out for us and join us. Mhm. We'll do one more question before continuing. Um, how do you think we should regulate the wearable medtech market? Thinking of the Apple Watch, giving a temperature reading for a literal apple. Where do we draw the line? I think this kind of goes back to what I mentioned of clear communication, letting people know what they are interacting with, letting people know. I think that's where most controversies arise when it comes to data collection, especially oftentimes with the internet, is people may not fully be aware of what data is being gathered. Um, and oftentimes this is because things are put behind long lists and long documents of end user agreements, and I think that it's important to give the full picture, but oftentimes I do think there should be little blurbs at the top of those little summaries of like, hey, you're going to be getting like here's a one sentence on what we're going to be getting from you if you click this checkbox, what data we'll get from you. So I think communication is the most important thing, um, and how to draw a line. And so allowing people to get all these technologies and advancing them, but also communicating so people can know where they can draw the line on their own, giving them that choice of like, hey, these technologies exist. I'm okay with some of these, but not all of them. So I'm going to draw that line there. So letting people draw their own line by just communicating is probably where I'd end up uh, placing it when it comes to, especially with medicine and wearables. Um, cool. We'll do a couple more slides and then I'll get back to questions. What is next? Yeah, so this is a talk on the future of medtech monitoring, and so I think we have to talk about what is next. And we are entering a new era where medical monitoring is smarter, is more connected, is more patient centralized when it comes to usage of AI, usage of wearables, the internet, and so these trends are transforming how we detect, treat, and even prevent illnesses. Oftentimes, it can even happen before visible or outwardly visible symptoms appear. And so I think continuing on with those trends is the best way to improve and evolve. As mentioned before, AI and machine learning, we have a lot of data, and there are patterns that we aren't always able to see. And so being able to train entire networks to find those patterns, for us to detect things that to us may be invisible, to prevent illnesses before they're actually taking a strong hold or effect, I think is a super important thing. And then RPM, remote patient monitoring, comes back down to the wearables, communicating like, hey, this is what these wearables do, this is what they detect, this is who the data is being shared with. And then, but also just being able to continue on making technology smaller, lighter, and able to be worn, is definitely something that we can work towards. And this ties, directly into wearable technologies. And so I think those are really tied hand in hand. Of things that are wearable means that people can be monitored, as they go. And then remote patient monitoring, using the internet more, being able to transfer data and let people who live in their own homes be monitored, and then safely being able to move the data to healthcare professionals, to best communicate, best work towards solutions, and best keep people safe. EHR integration, really just working towards making things more connected again, and then a cybersecurity focus. I think, yeah, it comes down to communication, being able to keep people's data safe and let them have the choice of what they want to share, um, and just letting, and then also being able to safely transfer things, especially when it comes to medicine. That's such a personal topic, is people's own medical health, and it can be tough sometimes too, that there are sometimes leaks and security um, leaks out there for where data does get out. And so I think improving cybersecurity is always something that can be very helpful, especially when it comes to in the past couple of years, quantum computing has been a huge subject of a way that is going to be shaking up the cybersecurity field a lot as we continue to work with quantum computers. But I also think there's a lot of benefits of being able to create unheard of previous technologies when it comes to cybersecurity. Will be definitely something coming up in the future. Um, but I think that's sort of what's next and what's upcoming. Some examples of this: sensor fused skin patches, things that just stickers and things you can put on your skin that kind of blend in, but are able to still get a lot of data and be able to communicate it to your healthcare professionals. And I think there's a lot of different ways that these can be improved on, making different sensors more flexible, making things easier to apply, more invisible, um, and better allow things to get those real time vitals is a huge thing. Multi-parameter monitors, being able to get more data from like less instruments, I think is a huge thing that can be super helpful. As with the smartwatches, being able to get a single device that could get your heart rate, get your detect if your nerves are working at the same strength, blood oxygen. There's a lot of different things. I think if you can combine more devices and have them be in the same place, it makes things less complicated. I mean, more complicated to produce, but less complicated from a user perspective, which is always super important thing to consider.
I think there's a very important comment from students. The robotics, uh, I am sure you know more about robots than the previous generation. So when you mentioned about the sensor-infused skin patches and multi-parameter monitors, do you think the students who are studying robotics and AI, is all of this interrelated, or you think these are very different topics and
Yeah.
they cannot come together? What's your take? Because robotics is really number one. If you Google search right now on engineering student, most of them want to go into robotics, and robotic surgery, robotic eye surgery, laparoscopic surgery is the norm.
Mhm.
So when you were talking about sensor infused skin patches and all these AI driven early, do you think all that comes to robotics? What's your take?
Mhm. I mean, I full heartedly believe that science is such an interdisciplinary thing, an interconnected subject. Um, I mean, we place labels on different fields of study, but there's a lot of interplay between different studies. I mean, medtech is directly combining medicine and technology, and so people that come from a robotics background are absolutely important to being able to help when it comes to medicine as well. And with the sensor infused skin patches, that's definitely something where those ideas almost definitely originated from a medical professional, some doctor communicating or having a conversation with a material engineer who's maybe working on adhesives, or maybe an electrical engineer who was working on different signal detection for different electromagnetic signals, and just communicating and sharing of like, hey, this is what I'm working on, what are you working on, and hey, maybe there's a way we can make these connected. How my what I'm working on could be the solution to maybe your problem if you help me kind of bridge this gap of between different disciplines. And so I definitely believe that that all different all different fields of study have some way to interplay with each other. And it's just about communicating more and sharing more ideas, and it can help a lot in ways maybe you didn't foresee. So I definitely would agree that sharing and communicating more is the best thing we can do between different fields of study, even beyond STEM, going into more creative spheres. I think there's a lot we can do.
I remember before you started the talk how keen you were to bring different specialities, different engineering backgrounds together. As engineering students want to work with doctors, and doctors want to work with people from medtech industry. So I know you are so passionate about it, and by look at the questions and the way the people have interacted with you, it appears this is what I think you want to create. You want to create a kind
Yeah.
of a channel where you can speak about medtech on
Mhm.
educational. So do you want to invite some of your audiences to come and be part of this interactive series? What's your vision with them?
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to us if you do want to meet up with us or communicate what you're looking forward to. Even just reaching out, leaving comments, um, and we're definitely looking towards to reaching back out to you all. And yeah, definitely working on communication and sharing more. And this channel is definitely about that communication, education, um, helping people better understand medicine, med tech technologies, or medical technologies. I think that's definitely what this is about. And so definitely please reach out to us if you have questions, ideas, concerns, anything really. Please do reach out. We look forward to hearing from you all
So the
as
last
well.
5 minutes, if there's any questions you want to take or finish off with the slides.
Yeah, I'll quickly go and finish through. I mean, these are things that we mentioned before. AI systems, briefly mentioned that. Being able to find patterns that we can't see before, and then the personalized monitoring. So I think a lot of these things I've been reiterating, but I think it's because they are important. They're being able to make things more personalized, being able to make things more able to be anywhere is are definitely the main things that you should draw from this talk of making technologies smaller, easier to use, and more accessible overall for sure. And then I guess we can cut. We'll finish up here for sure. Um, that the future of monitoring isn't just about technology. It really is just about people. And these advancements mean that more lives are saved, that more care is delivered where it's needed, and building a healthcare system that works smarter, not just harder, but smarter overall, to help more people in better ways. And so, building these better outcomes from earlier detection means faster treatment, means healthier patients and healthier people overall. And then building the greater accessibility through internet communication of different people being able to be monitored where they are, and then also wearables, people being able to be monitored on the go, of their keeping track of their own health is a super important thing. I think a big technology example of this is blood sugar technologies over the past couple decades, and that's a huge thing that people are now able to manage their own glucose levels on the go. They're able to use their phones to keep track of it, find patterns, and best take care of their own health is super important. It helps improve the experience. And as we continue to make sensors better overall and monitoring devices better overall, it makes things less invasive. It means you can get more personalized information that people can hold on their own and work with and share with their medical professionals. And it empowers patients overall when they are able to better understand themselves and have more control over their information and being able to, yeah, understand themselves better. Um, and this definitely uh, also comes back to making things more affordable, making things more efficient, and improving all the different aspects of technology, from the materials all the way up to the medical parts themselves. And overall, by doing all of these different things and working to improve these technologies, lives can absolutely be improved and saved, and which is something that all people should want. So, yeah. And thank you again for listening to this talk. If you do want to have any questions or you want to stay connected, please reach out to us through any of these different things or our email on this YouTube channel or leaving comments. But I'll answer a few more questions before we go. Let's see. Um, how can nonprofits support such expensive technologies in helping patients? I think nonprofits are a wonderful type of organization. That's super important for being able to focus on the mission of a cause, um, and you're not having to worry about profits or other things. And I think, I mean, technologies are expensive and tough, but I think it's about finding the right people who care and who want to put in the time and effort, people who volunteer or are willing to do their work for less of a cost for less hours, obviously, um, but still being able to help a lot. And so I think it's just about outreach and being able to reach to find the right people who can help in these organizations. It's probably the most important thing when it comes to nonprofits. And then also, especially this is easier with the internet nowadays, but getting good grants to help with your funding and being able to help you use the resources that are already out there. I mean, a lot of these grants, they come from organizations that want to sponsor, they want to give out this money and these resources and help these technologies come to fruition, but oftentimes people don't find the resources and time. And so I think it's about uh, really searching out there, finding more people that want to help, finding more organizations and grants that want to give and support. I think are the two main pillars of non-for-profits helping when it comes to expensive technology. So gain experts who want to do their services or help out for less expensive to maybe just volunteering, and then also looking for grants, super important. And there are people who specialize in grant searching, so maybe looking out for those types of people on resources like LinkedIn, um, or different communities like mHub in Chicago, which is a startup community. Being able to communicate a lot of these things and find the people you need, the resources you need, is super important for not-for-profits. One more question here. Let's see. Um, Medtech combines the world of biology with electronics and data as a true cross-functional domain. How do you recommend someone get started learning about the world of medtech? I think starting from just one perspective is often easy to approach. I mean, the hardest step is going from 0 to 1 most of the time, and so just picking a side, being like, let me start out with understanding the medicine side, maybe, and understanding human anatomy, understanding how what conditions and diseases and problems are out there, and then what are current fixes for them. And then from there, or maybe you could start from this other way of starting from the technical aspect of maybe I'm going to start as a material engineer. I'm going to study chemistry. I'm going to learn about these different complex STEM topics, and then you can branch out to maybe being like, oh, and how do these work in medicine? I think if you are looking for a degree that helps a lot with this, I think the biggest one would be um, maybe biomedical engineering. I think would be the best one when it comes to med tech, because it quite literally is, you're working with medicine, but then also coming from an engineer perspective of what technologies can we apply to these different problems to find solutions. So, absolutely. Well, thank you all for listening, and thank you all for being out here. I definitely look forward to hearing from you all, and I hope you all do reach out and continue to communicate. And I do look forward to these conversations in the futures and these streams. Um, and yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much all for listening and for watching, and take care, and bye.